Happy first Monday of February. You did it. You survived the month of January. We're having a party this morning because we put January in our rear view. So it's so good to see you. Welcome into Team Jennifer's Monday morning setup. You've got me in front of the camera this morning. I'm Jennifer Ogilvy. I come to you from the Dallas, Texas area, and we've got Jennifer Krippner, who is, if we go straight up north in the United States, she's up there in Minnesota. So we're both in the central time zone. We always love when we get to work together. She'll be hanging out in the chat. If there's anything that comes up along the way, she'll take care of that. She'll point you in the right direction. She'll be sharing some links that you'll find helpful this morning as we just kind of roll along. Yeah, happy Groundhog Day. We were saying that darn groundhog saw his shadow, which means 6 more weeks of winter, but I'm counting on him being wrong. And the you guys who are up there freezing will get a little bit of a break. Jennifer laughed. She said, "Well, a lot of times it's not 6 more weeks of winter; it's more like 3 more months of winter when you're in Minnesota." So, yeah, that silly groundhog. Make sure that. Oh, good morning. Amanda, she's telling us she's embracing her German heritage this morning. Share what you're loving in the chat right now. I always feel like it's such a great way to start our time together with some positive things that we're sharing with each other. I said we binged season 2 of The Pit, which, I realized I would not have been cut out to be in the medical field. So kudos to those of you who see stuff like we see on The Pit, but it's real life. But I said, if I'm being honest, what I'm really loving is Noah Wiley. Going back to those ER days from the 90s. But you guys have just, yeah, no spoilers. We won't talk about the spoilers, Cassie, but it's just kind of fun to dive in to those it's no fun, but it is a calling for sure. For sure, my two best friends are hospital nurse case managers, and so I know I have such an appreciation for what they do. And yes, the actor from ER, gosh, I used to put my kids to bed on Thursdays and go hang out with Noah Wiley when he was but a young thing. Anyway, so that's been fun. I love seeing what you're reading, what you're loving, products that you're using, all that good stuff. It kind of inspires us to maybe go beyond what we normally would look at. My favorite is to just take notes on the books you're reading and then, just add it to the ever growing to be read list. You've been watching the show From. Okay, so there's another one that we need to add to our list. I don't know if Noah Wiley was ever on Grey's Anatomy. If y'all know the answer, we're having, medical ER or medical show trivia this morning. I don't think so, but there were also a lot of lovely doctors on that show. Okay. Make sure your chat is set to everyone because we'll be sharing this morning. And I know folks are kind of trickling in on this chilly Monday morning. We love this community. If you might be catching this Monday morning time for the first time, give us a hello in that chat. Say I'm new here because we want to offer a big welcome. Our Monday group is very special. We are a little bit smaller than the weekend groups, but we are consistent and we show up for each other. So if you're brand new here, drop that in the chat. And then this is our slide with our community guidelines. You see it every time you come to a social because we remind each other about keeping our spaces safe. And also we want to share that hello at silkandsonder.com for the headquarters. If you ever have any issues that you need to get, resolved with your Silk and Sonder subscription, maybe something's missing, whatever. The Sonder farm instead of the Sonder family. I love that. So yes, welcome to a brand new theme, belief. And some of y'all were commenting on that song. If y'all remember from long ago, there was a show called The Great American Hero. It was wonderful. I thought it was a little too short-lived, and that was a theme song. I don't know that shows have those theme songs like they used to back in the day, but that's a good one called Believe It or Not. And so here we are looking at our brand new theme on our brand new month. And I'm going to keep this quote up because this is what popped into my mind it's one of those nuggets that have kind of always been in my head ever since I was like a youth and heard this. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that just encompasses this idea of how belief plays out in my life. So I'll be sharing that slide at any other things that I do this month. So Henry Ford has attributed that quote. We're going to be working on a brand new mind map, 4 questions this month. So you'll need 4 spaces in that journal, rosebud thorn reflection, and weekly setup pages. And I don't know that we have anybody here for the very first time. So you all are old hat. So we can get moving on. So it's time to set up your mind map for the month. And it is all about belief, and I'm going to just give you a pre-warning. We're jumping in deep this morning. So, that reminder that if ever a prompt doesn't feel comfortable and you need to be in a different mindset to work on it, grab a screenshot, let it marinate in your brain and work on it when you're ready. But I actually was able to, I had the opportunity to do our questions this month that I thought we've got to figure out where some of our core beliefs came from. And that's what we're going to start with this morning. Our beliefs shape us quietly. Some are chosen, some are inherited, and some were formed to help us through a moment in time. This month, we're simply slowing down to notice them. So each week is going to offer a space of reflection. So we will go approach it with curiosity and kindness. We're not trying to fix anything. We're not putting pressure. There's not right answers. We just want to write what feels true right now and trust that whatever comes up is enough. All righty. So are you ready? Week 1 is all about inheritance. Our questions are: what belief did you inherit without choosing? And how has it shaped the way you live, love, or decide? And then a follow up to that: if I could thank this belief for one thing, it would be. And we had some very robust discussion this weekend at the other setups about this question as we looked at some of those things that are just sort of part of who we are in that essence, those beliefs that have stuck with me. I'm going to share mine. There's my mind map. I put a little heart in the middle in honor of Valentine's Day. And I will tell you, once I started writing this, I realized I really could have written probably 2 pages to how I've answered this question. But we're going to think about, where did this belief come from? Was it family? Was it a cultural belief? Our world, I was saying this weekend, for me growing up, helping vocations were sort of the path that women were steered. It wasn't necessarily go out there and be an aeronautical engineer, but you can be a teacher, you can work in the health fields as a care provider. But there was just sort of this cultural belief about women and what they were able to do. After, of course, they stayed home and raised children. So that was the early 80s. That was kind of when I was becoming a woman and getting out into the world. So that was sort of there and ingrained. So that cultural push for that. Faith. Maybe survival gave you that belief. You needed to survive something. And then think about when you first realized this belief was operating in you. And then finally, in what ways has it helped you belong? And in what ways has it limited you? So, some things to sort of talk about. There was a lot of talk this weekend on perfection, being that perfect little girl or being that perfect student and making those grades, those expectations that were put on us, whether they were just very bold and right there or they were subtly woven into the culture of your family life. I'm going to read to you what I wrote. And again, I started writing and then I realized I could write and write and write on this one. So for me, what I kind of ended up with is I inherited my belief in a higher power from my family. We weren't necessarily a religious family, but God played a huge part in developing my moral compass. I have a firm belief in always trying to be a force of good and right, and that love conquers all, which was the reassurance I needed to get through a sometimes very hard childhood. As I grew in my own faith, I was slowly able to really make it my own, minus the shame and the fear that came with it originally. So I grew up with a whole lot of shame for not being good enough, and that I was being watched and judged. And so this belief helped me be an accepting person, this belief in a higher power of love. And it was because I was loved, I can love completely. And I was able to sort of reshape it as I brought my children up, hoping to eliminate a little bit of that fear and shame and let love be their guide. So that's the thing that I started unpacking. And y'all, truly, when I started this, I was like, I need to keep writing on this. But then it also started bringing up what that looked like growing up and what that looked like as expectations of a young woman, of a teenager, and that kind of stuff. So I told you we're jumping off the deep end, but we're kind of looking at the origin story of who we are with our belief system. I've got some tips over there so you can set your mind map up wherever you want. A lot of us are team last page because it's easy to flip over to that last page. So as you're sort of dealing with this, share some of the things that are coming up. And again, I brought up lots of different things that I was inspired by in Sonder family as we worked through this prompt in the last couple of setups this weekend. So hopefully you're ready to start jumping in. And yeah, let me just put on a little chunk of music so you can get going. You might want to grab a screenshot if it's too early or you haven't downed that cup of caffeine yet and you need a little more time. You can just start it and then work on it later. And then, yeah, just feel free to share. You're in a safe spot. Well, there's some good stuff in the chat this morning. Thank you for sharing as time permitted. We're always so short on time when we start working on these, but look at where you are today. Some of you have some beautiful stories about the ingrained belief that came from culture or family and how well it served you. And then there's a lot of things that have healing attached to it. Maybe growing up and feeling like I had to just take care of myself and be so independent, maybe didn't feel so good. And sometimes it can put you in a not great frame of mind. And then you stop and you go, but wait. I am an independent person and that has served me well and I've been able to be strong enough to know, okay, I can ask for help and it's not a sign of weakness. There was some discussion about scarcity that you just didn't deserve and I can so resonate with that because I grew up with a huge scarcity mindset of everything really that I didn't deserve. We didn't have the money. It wasn't okay to treat yourself. um, and a lot of it had to do with child support not coming in, and your father isn't, and that kind of stuff. And so I never felt worthy with treating myself until the theme of indulgence just a few years ago. So in my 50s, I'm working on that, learning how to indulge a little bit and not feel badly that I am worthy of abundance. So we have some things that, we're always working on. And I love that about our journals and about our community. So thank you so much for sharing in the chat. Hopefully, this has got you really embracing who you are, where your beliefs are concerned. And then we'll keep digging in as the month goes along. So good work this morning. Now I'm going to invite you to close out January with that final January reflection via our rose and bud and thorn check-in. So let's take a look at what last week brought you and do this reflection. Now, you may want to put this in January's journal because it's the last thing having to do with January. Or you may we had those bonus pages in February's journal with that last week of January. So maybe you'll do it on that. So it's at 56, page 56 in January or page 30 in February. And of course, the thorns are the things. I'll start there so we can end positively. But the challenging or stressful things where you could use some more support, and really for me, just news, news of the day. And this goes back to that belief system that I have of love conquers all and be a force of light and good. And I'm just not seeing that where I would expect to see that. And it's gotten me a little down. I've divorced news. I'm putting in some boundaries and I'm trying to stay current without getting too involved. So that was my thorn, is figuring all that out and that balance. The bud is, what are you looking forward to? What's giving you hope or motivation? What's coming down the pipe for you? I'd shared last week. It's vacation time and my bags are packed and we're driving to Austin to fly out of the airport there because it just made life easier. And my daughter's there, so she's taking care of our car and I don't have to deal with DFW. And it ended up being a little cheaper. So vacation time. So I won't be on next week, y'all. And you'll have Katie on the call next Monday. And then the rose, what was the thing that just brought you joy and gratitude through the week? And we were iced in Dallas. We don't have roads that are built to be plowed. And if we did, we don't have the snow plows to do it. We have very limited equipment to deal with winter storms down here in Texas. So when they come and there's ice on the road, we stay put. So I stayed put and I hobbied my little heart out all week, all week long. I sewed. I was telling Jennifer, I keep looking that way. That's where my sewing machine is. I cleared the table. So it was just such a good week of just investing in the things that brought me joy and ways to find my flow. And so that was my rose. I'm going to put on a little bit of music, and I would love to know, we all want to know, what are you celebrating from last week? And then what are you looking forward to? And if you need some support with those thorns, feel free to drop that in the chat. Dawn, I'm so glad that we are seeing you here today as you are learning your new way of life without your gym. So sorry. And I'm going to suggest that you connect with Corey Dodds if you can. She also walked this journey. Her first anniversary without her husband is coming up, and so you'll be able to find she I think it'd be a compatible friendship for you and Corey to hang out together. Even if it's virtual, you guys had some beautiful roses. You're looking forward to maybe some turning in relationships, stopping stopping alcohol use, just working on when you have a partner who's working on themselves. Love that. You're getting some diagnoses that are helping you understand yourself better. There's just lots of good stuff in there. There's lots of hard stuff. I'm glad that we're all here together. It's good Girl Scout cookie season. That's always good. I had some Thin Mints. They were extinguished during the winter storm. I fed my soul quite a few Thin Mints. So, thank y'all for sharing in the chat. You're welcome to continue to share as we move on with the rest of our setup. And if you need a little, a little support, just drop that in there. Or maybe someone will have something to offer you that, they've walked that same journey and they can say, here's what worked for me and something to consider. So thank you for taking that time, y'all. We're going to be setting up pages 32 and 33 this week. And I have a couple of examples to show you. And this week I did both pages at once so we can take a look at just what that looks like for someone setting up. So you can see we've got a statement up there for how we want to feel. The to-do list is a bingo board, a little mini bingo board. The habit and activity tracker has a set number of goal or a goal set for each one of those activities. And I love the two at the top of that habit and activity tracker. They're like no goals, or they're eliminating, they're getting rid of sweets, they're not intaking alcohol. And I think that's so important. We tend to bring things onto our plate instead of getting rid of that. And then you can see that that is also no sweets and limiting the alcohol is part of the to do, but bingo board there. So tying it in a couple of times for that accountability, some appointments over there. The shopping list is kind of turned into a checklist. So again, we're seeing the alcohol show up two times. So really trying to be mindful of that. And then the daily ritual, a daily devotional. So just little check marks to hold themselves accountable. And then this one I love, I want to feel light, and then a lot of fun little words around that to support that. There's the three major goals, and then their to-do list is a manifestation. So, sort of a place for affirmations. I will be happy, positive, organized, creative. So, just all that power of writing that down. Their habits and activities, not tracking, or not setting a goal. They're just straight up tracking. And then affirmations are going in that meal plan. And then their intentions for each day are part of their shopping list. So, just that idea of changing things up to work for you. I always love to just grab those images that you share. So keep sharing your setups in Sonder Club. I was saying last night after the monthly setup, I kind of like to see the end of the week setups. Let show us how you did. Let us see that permission of it's okay if we didn't get something done. We're not the only ones. Remember, this is data. It's not there to shame, it's there to give you information. So we'll start with how do you want to feel this week? An old graphic, but I thought it was time to bring her back up again. That maybe you want to feel flossom. You want to be an individual who embraces their flaws and knows they're awesome regardless. So perhaps that's the feeling word that you'll gravitate to. And we have lots of ways of setting that up, words or phrases. Amanda says she put accomplished and loved. So think about what you want for this week. Pop that in the chat and pop that in your I want to feel space. There's some inspirational words. Carla, I love that N word. I want to feel devotion to self. Surely looking at who you are and honoring that. This could tie directly into that idea that you wrote to in your belief reflection this morning on our mind map. Love it. Love it. And then we're going to take those feels into defining what our goals are for the week. We always say there's lots of ways to set this up. Many of you like to do a category like, work, community, and home, and then plug those in. Nicole says she wants to feel ready to be blooming. And February is such a good time. It was mentioned earlier in the chat that, like, if you're a gardener, this is a great time to start those seeds. So you can do that figuratively. What seeds are you starting so you're ready for this springtime season to show how you are blooming and blossoming and growing? Maybe you throw in your word of the year, or we just hopefully set up our start, stop, and continue and our intention space. And we've got that monthly tracker. What are we wanting from those pages, and how can they inform our goals this week? Here's some great examples from y'all. The one at the bottom is divided up into household, business, and personal. And then the to-dos, the things that they want to happen are over there and are being directly informed by those goals. I love this space to maybe repurpose into a tracker because we have that grid. And so I thought this week we could maybe look at our morning routines. I know that front end of the year is where maybe we want to shore routines and rhythms up that maybe have faltered after the holidays. And so here's an example of what somebody did with the three major goals to hold themselves accountable to their morning self-care. And it's okay if your morning self-care just says drink coffee and hope for the best. But I've got some graphics that I'll go through while you're working on this section to maybe if you are a person who's wanting to have a better brain in the morning and to get your morning routine synced up, we've got some ideas to do that. So we've got a couple of good graphics here. This one's broken down, the one on the left by a timeline. The one on the right also has a timeline, but it also is kind of tweaked for productive work days if you're working, or how to have a very creative day, how to get going with that, or if you're going to lean into a little self-care relaxing day. So there's a couple of graphics that you can grab, and here's a couple more reminders of things that could be happening in your morning to start your day on the right foot. And I start every day with a big glass of lemon water, and I don't have a ton of great habits, but that's one I've done for years. And it's one that starts me off well because if I don't have that water, I will start feeling it later. So I start off hydrated. It's made a big difference in my life. So here's some ideas: waking up, body, mind, getting ready, taking care of your home, doing a little morning reset. So grab a screenshot or watch the recording later and pause it for some inspiration here. And again, I'll go through these while you work on this space. We've got our weekly to-dos, and so many ways to fill this in. The one up there on the upper right is kind of really thinking about your why behind the things are on your to-do list if you're trying to be very focused. And it's I will, and then because I hope. So I will meal prep because I hope for a healthy and energy fueled week. So these can really help you support those intentions that you set on page 9. Um, for your month. Like go look at those intentions. I think it's page 9. I usually have these sort of yeah, page 9. What do your intentions say? And maybe your to-dos are drawn from that through framing it out like this. I will because I hope. Maybe you do a bingo board. Perhaps you repurpose it into something like a to-be list. How do you need to be? Maybe countering some of those beliefs that came up in our prompt this morning. Or perhaps you land on some weekly affirmations that you're going to say every day. So there's some examples of those. And again, here's dividing that to-do list up so that it works for you, some repurposing. I don't have an actual Eisenhower matrix, but we speak to that usually weekly about, plugging a long to-do list into an Eisenhower grid to help you prioritize the important things all the way down to the things that can maybe wait or be eliminated or moved to another time. Another example of your AM and PM rhythms and routines there. So lots of ways to use that. And for the sake of time this morning, I'm going to go ahead and jump into that bottom section too, and then I'll put on some music while you work on this. But the habit and activity section, I found a very old graphic. So if this was yours and you wrote belief in yourself, perfect graphic for our new theme. You are reminded you don't have to fill in every line here, and you don't have to track every single day here. It's really about taking what you need. You can see this person is giving themselves the weekend off. I'm not tracking habits on vacation. My pages are going to be mostly blank because I'm hoping to just sit and read and read and read. Um, Here are some more ways of setting this up. Perhaps some of these habits are also inspired by your habit tracker, that wheel of the things you want to do. But it could also have some things like no Amazon. Like, what are you eliminating? What does if you put in your money management intention, to watch your spending, then maybe something like no Amazon goes here in that tracker. Look at the one in the middle right. In the habit and activity is kind of a little bit of a affirmation. I will enjoy having a productive power hour. I will enjoy the daily ritual and trackers. I will enjoy morning step and stretch. So, kind of framing this out as an affirmation can sort of do that trick in your head about the power that you're putting behind those habits and activities. Or maybe you just throw a bunch of good stickers on here to inspire. Got some weekly challenges that could show up here, or maybe you'll put these on your second part of your setup, and then some feel good habits. So I'm going to stop talking. We'll go back through all of these slides while you're completing page one and let us know what you'll be doing this week. righty. So either you've gotten your first page done or you've got a really good start to that. So now we're going to slide over to our second part of our setup. And we're going to kind of take a look at, these sections. And I always say, I think pretty much everybody here has set this page up before. So we know this is the one that gets repurposed a lot. Not an all exhaustive list, but we've got some repurposing ideas over there on the left. Think about the way you want to feel this week. If you're tired, then perhaps you need some physical rest, and you can think about how that can be incorporated into the second page of our setup. Perhaps you use your meal planner for a meal planner, or perhaps you do it as a reflection space if you're working on your nutritional needs this week and you're wanting to kind of shore that up with what you're feeding and fueling your body with. So perhaps that goes in the meal plan. Lots of different ways to set it up. There's an example of a menu that's been planned out for the week, and I want to go eat at this house because I'm really good. This meal plan looks way better than what I normally have. We've got the one next to that is self-care or me time. So that kind of introspective, this is how I'm caring for me, so then I can be good for everybody else. So making sure that there's things like quilting on there to find your flow into something that captures your heart as you're working on it. We've got an example of doing the morning and evening routines on this meal planner. And then, of course, weekly reflections, little mini journal prompts, little check-ins. So I'll just kind of roll through these slides since y'all are all very familiar with that and give you that space to set the spaces up. Um, don't forget that part of your mind body health is just kind of taking care of yourself and making sure that you're stopping and you're grounding. You're taking that pause. So, oh, I'm gonna sneeze. It's just, excuse me. I can feel it coming on. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique is that really good fallback. Five things you can see, four you can touch, three things you can hear, two things you can smell, and one thing you can taste. And you just pause. You just sit still. Thanks, Amanda. I might have another one or two coming. Um, Here are some examples of setting up your mind body health plan in different ways. I love outside because especially in the winter, if I'm not intentional with leaving the house, I don't even go outside and get fresh air sometimes. That's not good. You need to go outside. So perhaps you're tracking ways you can engage with nature and the outdoors. Love the idea of checking in with the people who are important to you. Go back and look at those intentions that you set up. Did you have things about relationships in there that could be put into one of these spaces this week to hold yourself accountable to what you wrote in your intentions for your different types of relationships with your folks. So perhaps that key relationship intention on page 9 is reflected some way here. Like again, another mini reflection, what made me smile, laugh, be happy. The one in the bottom right, I think that might be Gloria's. She put a mindful pause. So she's giving herself this reminder of stopping. And on Monday, she's going to just take a few minutes and pick a color and do a color hunt. What does she see around her? Things that are red. Maybe walk through the house or go outside. A texture journey, a soundscape. Mindful morsel. She's got these different things to sort of quiet her soul and get this mindfulness practice engaging in her life. Here's the fun graphic about, self-care in February. We love positively present, some inspiration for you. There's the 7 types of rest. Using alliteration to frame out any of your days. This is kind of fun. If you do a throwback Thursday, what does that mean? Maybe you go listen to an old playlist you made. Maybe you go watch a show from your childhood that brings you joy. Maybe, you have Fact or Fiction Friday and you sit with a book. You sit down with a good book to read, or you go learn something. So that can be a great way to challenge self. And then, of course, the shopping list can be a shopping list, or a reminder not to spend, especially, yeah, go look at that money management. Maybe that gets worked into the week here. Lots of different ways to set this up. There is that note from a husband. The space gets left blank by one of our Sonder families, and her partner writes a message to her each week. So perhaps you incorporate that if you have someone special in your life. I think that's such a beautiful way to use one of these spaces. Um, Also, the ideas for mini breaks at work, I'm bringing that one back, that reminder to take a break. And there's some great examples there of how that could look. This space is so good for checkoffs, with the things we want to do in the morning, evening. That could go there. Some more examples here. Doodle space, a shopping list, and it's broken down into self, food, and then the boring stuff like fridge wrap. Um, it could be a cleaning space, household areas of focus, and then you highlight it as you do those things, or you give yourself a self compliment, and then some graphics to inspire these spaces. These are little mini journal prompts there. You can see how someone is using that alliteration idea. Here's a fun to-do list for February, and I love the number one, edit your New Year's resolutions. Like if you set those, how's it going? And if you need to edit them, I think that's pretty cool. And then start thinking of ways you're going to treat yourself on Valentine's Day. Yeah, let me put on some music and we're going to finish up this page two. Share what you do and how you might repurpose any of these spaces. I'll go back through the slides so you can grab a screenshot if you need to. All righty. I hope that you've gotten a good start to setting up your week so that it can be exactly what you want it to be, that you can meet your goals and get those habits checked off, but also take some time for you. Jennifer's dropping some great links in the chat that you can grab so you can go back and look at this recording as well as 1,000 other recordings. Additionally, we want to see your weekly setup in Sonder Club, and I'd love to see completed pages. That's always fun to share. And then finally, a reminder that we've got a really great event happening this month. I said it's Mayha's first baby's birthday celebration. Silk and Sonder is 7 years old. And so there will be a birthday bash offered on February 18th. Hope we see you there. Y'all make it a great week. Thanks for carving out this time and spending your Monday morning with Team Jennifer. We loved seeing you. Bye, Sonder family.